Welcome to Interviews, hosted by Randy Goodman, Harvey Callis Real Estate, your real estate professional. Get to know our community, our businesses, products, and services that will elevate your life. Please welcome your hostess, Randy Goodman.
Hey everybody, it's Randy Goodman here from Harvey Callis Real Estate, and I am super excited to have my good friend Odette Peak here with me today. She is a soul story strategist. Try saying that 3 times fast. And, and I'm just so excited to have you here. Hi, Odette. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am awesome and super excited to have you here. So first, tell us a little bit about who's Odette?
Who's Odette? Oh dear, that's a loaded question, right? Yeah, so it's interesting. With COVID, I feel like I have done a repivot, a reinvention, which has been a beautiful experience. But I work with entrepreneurs. So I'm a business coach helping entrepreneurs uncover what their soul story is and teaching them how to share it with the world through the power of speaking. And before COVID, it was to speak on stage and write, your own events in the real world. Now I'm really focusing on how to still grow your business using speaking with the online tools that we all have, because everybody's online. So we need to be too.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So is this something that you always did, or give us a little background and transition? What's your story?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, our paths are kind of crossing in a way. And I'll share that story in a minute. But I've been coaching since 2011. God, that's a long time. Time is starting to fly. And I started off coaching, just doing your generalized business, mindset, marketing, and money coaching. Just all the strategies that you need to start a business, grow a business, and take it to multiple six figures and up. And it's been a wild ride. I wasn't on social media prior to that. I had email, but I wasn't on any social media platform. I don't know how many there were, but I did not want to go on Facebook. And it was a huge mental thing. Because I started my first business in 1993, selling to the real estate market.
Wow.
A little bit about that. And it was great. It was a crazy idea that we had. And, everything going against us in that I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. It was in a recession. I was 27, never built a business, never even held down a job properly because I kept getting fired. And it was terrible. And
there's hope for you guys.
That's right. And I'm like, okay, it literally was. It was a leap of faith. I thought, I'm just going to start this business. And chickened out the first time. And then I went and got a job as a sales rep for Pure Later Courier. Got fired 3 months later. I went, okay, this is dumb. Just start this damn business, would you? And so I started selling a service to the real estate market, which was just floor plans for feature sheets and all that kind of stuff. And there was no internet. And it was one of my most amazing and best clients was Harvey Callis, Michael Callis and Elise Callis. So yeah, it's funny that now you're working with them. Beautiful, beautiful people. And they've been really, really helpful. I still have all the gifts that they gave us when we had our kids. So that was so cute. Wow. Yeah. So built that business and for 10 years and decided that it was not passionate enough for me. Didn't even know what that meant actually. Okay. And I sold it to my husband, who is now my ex-husband. Right. And that's about 5 years after that, I embarked on a journey to start coaching because I thought I was working for the government. Which, how do you go from entrepreneur to government? It just doesn't really work. And
transition.
It is, yeah. I actually got laid off because they had closed down one of the programs. Okay. So, but I ended up using that last year. I went from full-time to part-time to build my business. I knew what I wanted to do, which was entrepreneurial something. And I thought, what do I know best? Well, all I got right now is I can build businesses. So became a coach. And I remember that day sitting there talking to my significant other at the time going, you know what? I think I'm going to be a coach. And he looks at me and goes, because he's a Tim Hortons store owner. And he goes, a coach? Like, what do you know about being coaching? I'm like, right. I don't know, but I think that's what I'm going to do. And maybe it was because I couldn't think of anything else to do. I hate to say, really. It was like, I don't know anything else. And that year was just trying to figure out what the hell I needed to do to build a coaching business.
I
So
love that. I
yeah.
love that. And it, you know, I always say this, but I love hearing people's transitions, you know, like where, you know, what did they think they were going to do in their life? And then what did they actually end up doing? And watching that transition of, you know, one thing led to another, and, you know, you just
Yep.
happen to do whatever you do today because of all these circumstances. So I
Yep.
love hearing that. And part of your thing is story and knowing those stories. And you know, so I love that. And I love how you pull that out of people. So tell us a little bit more about the details of how do you actually help people in businesses? Because I'm sure there's a lot of businesses out there right now, Odette, that are thinking, you know, I need to scale up. I'm kind of stuck where I am. I don't know how to go forward. And regardless what kind of business they're in, brick and mortar, stay at home. I mean, there's so many different variations.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So how I built that first business was through speaking, and I didn't know it at the time. I knew it about when I started coaching, around 3 years into coaching. I was like, okay, how did I build that business? What was it that was, you know, the thing, the hook? And it was office presentations. So I literally ran around all of GTA after phoning everybody, because you had to call people back then, and asking if I could do a 5 to 10 minute session meeting at your lunch and learns, or your whatever, your lunch meetings.
Right.
And I would drag my easel. So I had these easels with the floor plans, the whole bit, and set up my little thing, had 5 to 10 minutes, got the hell off stage, because you real estate agents, oh my God, you're either so busy or impatient. I don't know, but you're like, okay, we're done with you. And that's how I built, essentially is how we got the traction going. And so when I started coaching, I never told people my story. Now, for some reason, I never told people that I had a business prior to that, which I don't understand why I didn't do that.
Right.
But when I started coaching, it was a really tough first year where my relationship ended, the one I was in, blended family. It completely fell apart. And both of my parents got sick, broke a hip, and passed away within a couple of months of each other.
Wow. Terrible.
And I had developed this acute paralysis because of the stress. And for you massage-y type people, it's thoracic outlet syndrome, which pinched nerves in my neck, but it was affecting both sides of my neck, on both sides. And I literally couldn't move. And so that was my first couple of months in my business. I'm like, how am I going to do this? No one's going to hire me.
Right.
And so it was do or die, basically. And that was a really traumatic, probably the most rock bottom moments in my life, that something came up. I don't know. I remember just sitting on the couch and having like that come to Jesus moment. And it was like, I got to start sharing my story. I got to be vulnerable with people, and I've got to be open, because who wants to be vulnerable, really? So I just started sharing my story, and people were now resonating. I was letting the guard down, because when you have trauma in your life, you walk around with walls up, right? And because it's a protection mechanism. But you know, people don't get to know you. And so when I was working in the 80s as a sales rep, in the 90s, people didn't want to hear your story. It was all about how great you were. So it was really more ego-based marketing. And somehow, I don't know, I've heard all about the story stuff. I thought, okay, well, it's time I start sharing and just start being open. And so that's what I started doing, and started to see the results. And people were relating to my story. They're like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. I'm like, really? And you think you're the only one.
Right.
And then a few years after that, I really realized that the number one marketing tool for a business is your story. It doesn't matter, like you said, if you're bricks and mortar or whatever. I mean, you know, Google has a story, Apple has a story. So you've got to share your story, but you need to do it in a way that captivates and motivates people and inspires people, entertains people. But at the same time, you know, you have to have a marketing message within that story, within the talk that you write. So, I mean, you know, you've heard people tell their story, and it can be a real sob story. I've heard them all. There's sob stories, and then the audience is like, ooh, that's a bit yucky. Or they're like angry about the story. I had this one lady speaking about her ex-husband, and she was just slamming him. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to do that.
That's not what this platform's for.
That's right. You know, so when you have a story that your story is someone else's solution. So people want to have their pain or their challenges solved. And they need to buy into you first. And story is a great way to have people buy into you,
Yes.
know, like, and trust you and all of that stuff.
Yep.
And then you need to have a message. What is that message? What is the learning that you got from your story, from your pain and challenge? And what's the solution?
Right.
And that's what people need to hear. And when you're speaking, whether it's speaking on a Facebook Live or like this, or on stage or whatever, or even, let's call it, even blogging is some version of speaking because it's your written version, that you can make an audio. It's, you have to take people on a journey. It's that emotional journey, intellectual journey, and then a call to action to move people from the pain and stuckness that they're in into that next place for them, that next step.
Right. And it's so true. Like, you know, how do people, you know, get to know you or want to work with you, you know, using real estate, for an example? There's 55,000 real estate agents in Toronto, not all active, of course, but there's, you know, there's that many. How many coaches are in this world that you can access, right? Like, must be way more than that. Right? So how do you set yourself apart? Well, nobody has the same story. You could have similar things, crossover, you know, similar experiences, but nobody has it the same way. They don't have the same perspective. Yes, thank you. You know, that someone else has, and we can learn so much from each other and get to know each other by sharing. And I know, like you said, some people want to, you know, just hold it in, or they're too afraid to share it, or they don't want to be judged, or, you know, they've got all kinds of thoughts going through their head about why they don't want to share it. But the reality is that when you do share it, you have no clue how many people you're resonating with, how many people are being inspired by you and motivated by you. And, you know, so I love the concept. I mean, I've been doing it for years through book writing and publishing as well. So I'm totally on board with what you're saying, but it gets you to set yourself apart from the rest. So, and you've done that. I mean, I've watched your transition, Odette, you know, and you were talking about having your wall up. You could actually see that, right? You know, when people are like that, believe it or not, and for those of you who are like that, other people can see it, you know, they can see through that. So, and watching your transition, just to talk about you for a second, is just such a beautiful thing. Watching you over the years transform. I mean, you were an amazing business coach even back then. You were having huge success, helping so many people, but then to watch your own personal transition of what you're going through and your involvement into who you are today. And I know it's a continual process. It doesn't just have a start and an end, but, you know, watching you go through that was just incredible. And, you know, watching your self-discovery and whatnot, but then you get to take those things and put them into your business and help your clients even more. So watching your transition, you know, like you said, you started off being the regular basic business coach, basically, right? And then you transition to so many deeper levels, and you just keep getting deeper and deeper. And now you get to help your clients in that way. So, you know, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So so I grew up with, you know, immigrant parents, like so many of us. You know, they started a business, or they ran a business for their as their career, and, you know, came to Canada with $10 in their pocket, that kind of thing. So the message that I got from living with my parents that were like that, and my parents were successful entrepreneurs, and they said, it's, you know, to them, and I totally get this, it's all about the money. Is that you know, we've come from absolutely nothing. We've created so much, and it is about the money. So if you're going to go into business, it has to be all about the money. And so that was the message that I had. Now, I never cared about money. It wasn't really my motivator until actually with my first business, it was about the money, but then it was really about the journey as well, because I didn't know, to be honest with you, quite what I was doing. And then it started to become all about the money. And that's when it started to get kind of yucky for me, but I didn't realize that. So after I sold it, I floundered for about 5 years. I went back to school, for social work, and because I have this passion for helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied social work and gerontology because I thought I would own a retirement home. So I really was, or a palliative care place. That's what I was really excited to do. And it didn't work out. I found myself back in a job because it was like, I gotta make money because now I'm on my own. So I got divorced, and then I had a period of about 5 years on my own with the kids before I had a blended family relationship. And then with all of what happened in that first year of business, things really did shift for me. In fact, it made me harder, because then it was like, it really is all about the money because it's all up to me.
Right.
And so I started that business just based in pure fear, terror actually, of how I was going to do this.
Right.
And fear of failure, all the stuff. Right.
Right.
And because I was sick and I couldn't move, I was paralyzed for 18 months.
Wow.
And I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? My kids were in grade 7 and 9 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but did what I needed to do. But I could only do it with my nose to the grindstone, as they say.
Right.
The thought of looking, coming up for air was not a possibility. I was in the utmost of survival mode, and for no reason except for fear, because I had money, not someone had a lot of it, but I had money saved. I had bought a house, and everything was, I was okay. But I didn't see myself as okay because I was always worried about the next day. What happens if?
Right.
So I remember I got to this point, total burnout. I'm sure a lot of people would know what that feels like. And it shows up in many different ways. And for me, I remember flopping down on my couch in the living room going, what the fuck am I doing? I can't continue this way. I was exhausted, unhappy. And I thought, I just want to work at Starbucks. It was just fleeting. It's like, and you know what? I commend those that work at Starbucks. If you've ever seen them, like, that's a tough job.
Yep.
And I'm like, so I had this deep disconnection between my heart and my head, not knowing it at the time. And I just felt so disconnected. And that's when things started to crumble around me, my insides. Okay. And I started to develop and understand that there was I'm going to use the word spiritual, because back then I didn't even know what it was called. I just didn't feel right on the inside.
Right.
I felt like I had emotional cancer. And I hired a coach to help me heal, because I was so wounded and so broken.
Right.
And I started to heal. And in the healing, I realized there's more to me, there's more to life than the external. Mm-hmm. So however that process went, it took probably a lot longer than I had anticipated. I wish like we all want to get out of our shit faster than we want. But I was still resistant. And then I just started to get more and more deep into not weird woo-woo spirituality, but just into my heart. Mm-hmm. And that's when things started to change for me. And that's when I started to share my story. And that's when I started to see different results. But I really had to heal a lot of my past. Right. And like, my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was the enabler. It was your typical, All in the Family. That was my family. Edith and Archie Bunker. Right. I shit you not, I kid you not. And so I don't know if Archie Bunker was an alcoholic or not, but he was not a nice guy. And that was my family. And so I had to heal from that. Mm-hmm. And then I had to heal from the trauma of both of my parents dying, the relationship ending, and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I'm still on that healing journey because it never ends. It would be really nice to have a reprieve from it for a while. But I started to teach people just to share their story, teach them how to speak. And then now I really focus on alignment. That are you in alignment with your business? Alignment being your head, your heart, your feet, your soul, all of it. And I have another angle of my business, or what do you call it, arm of my business, called Spiritual Alliance, is how to get connected 100% in alignment with what you truly deeply want. Mm-hmm. And most people in this world don't do that. They build a business or have a stay in a job because of what they think they should do or have to do. Right. For safety and security. And I get it. I was there. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'd rather have less money and be really content and happy on the inside. Right. Than have all these big things because there's a responsibility. Yeah. So.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's, good life lesson for everybody out there as well to really start to dive deeper into yourself and live your true happiness. I know people tend to just go from thing to thing. They're doing, and not really, looking inside, and they have their routine, just go from one thing to the other, but not really taking time to appreciate, and enjoy. So it's a great message, and anybody out there who, wants to make a difference in their life, definitely reach out to Odette. So tell us, like, I know you believe in giving back, whether it's volunteering or charitable or work or whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of people are in this world are all about what can I get? And it's not even so much take, but what can I get? And we're all out there getting things, whether it's right, like, call them the weekend warriors. So people that have a job, they work 9 to 5, and the weekends are all for getting stuff. Like they're going to go get drunk. They're going to go, right? And you live your life for the weekends, and you live your life to go and get things and accumulate things.
Right.
One of the things that I've learned during this COVID time is, I had just gotten back from Costa Rica because I was putting together my retreat in Costa Rica, and it was all set to go. Like I went and I booked the place and I checked it out, and I was just in Costa Rica. I just love Costa Rica. So that's my plan to move there. And they don't have a lot there. And so every time I go, it brings me back to, it gives my head a shake, gives me back to reality that you don't need a lot of things to be really, truly, deeply happy. And I've heard it before from all the coaches out there, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys the things that make you happy. I get that.
Right.
The jet skis or the boat or the car or whatever. But when you strip all of that away, who are you? Right? What's left?
Right.
And so, what was I going to say? Oh, so COVID, when I got back at the end of March, and I was isolated for obviously the 14 days, I got super sick for about 6 weeks, and I was living alone because my kids had just moved out, and I was supposed to move with them, but I couldn't because of COVID and all sorts of stuff. So I had nothing except my bed, a table, and a couch because they'd taken everything, right? Which was fine. That was the plan. But I was literally stripped down to nothing. I couldn't go out. And I was like, wow, this is really kind of cool. I don't need anything. I really don't need anything. Except I need to feel a certain way.
Right.
So I saw your cat who's on your really big mantle, or not mantle, chest, whatever you call it. Yeah. So it's brought me back to that reality of, and then with people who are like going out to get all that toilet paper, they're trying to save themselves, but not even thinking about the other people.
Yeah.
That's been a real eye opener. I'm like, how much toilet paper do you really need? Like, we never had toilet paper, thousands of years ago. What did they use? Go grab a leaf. You're good. Right, or your hand or whatever.
Gather leaves now.
Right. What I like to do is I do a lot of giving back to different charities, and one of them, as you know, with Anna Lopez, is the $1 Million Smiles. Built a couple of play sets with my daughter. I love that. I love those moments of giving back. So her charity, it was a real eye opener for me, because here are families that are experiencing the most tragic thing, is having a sick child, or a child that's potentially going to pass away. I could not imagine. And it really brought me to, brings you to your knees in a way that you go, I have all of this. I got all of this. My kids are healthy, but these poor families aren't. And that started to open up my eyes and my kids' eyes as well. So when I do go to Costa Rica, for instance, I take what I can and I give it away, and it's all about giving your time, giving your time or your money. Like, I know this sounds, I don't know, when you go to the checkout counter at the LCBO or the grocery store, do you want to donate $5? I'm not judging the people that say no. I'm like, fuck, it's $5. And it's just like, what can you do, even if the smallest amount, that you can not think of yourself and think of how somebody else might be in need. And yes, it means parting with something, which is usually money or time or energy or whatever, but it comes back tenfold. And this world is in, we're in a reset mode, whatever's happening with the world. And it's a great opportunity to take a look at, how's your neighbor doing? Do they need help? And it's amazing to see the people that are stepping up to the plate. But what small, simple thing you can do, it will absolutely make a difference.
I love that message. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So if people actually first give us, like, I know you've been giving us a ton of value here. Are there any tips or suggestions you have for everybody before we sign off?
Yeah, I think, you got to sit quiet. And okay, you know what? I feel a little bit hypocritical about this because the damn Netflix, whenever I never used to watch TV, Netflix, whatever. I'm hooked on a show, and it's like my kids laugh at me because I don't just sit and watch Netflix. Like, I will multitask with it, right? Like I walk around with my computer, and so, but find quiet time, and you have to have quiet time to go inward to take a look at what is it that you really want. Are you really, truly, and deeply happy? And you have to be so brutally honest with yourself. One of the meditations that I've created is, it's actually a great one. Happy to share it with everybody. It's having a conversation with your future self. So I guide people through coming into contact with your future self. What is that dialogue? And then walking away from that, that conversation. It's, if you don't take the time to sit still, stop getting, just go inward, and ask yourself a couple of questions. So am I doing what I really want to be doing with work? Am I really happy in this relationship? Am I more concerned about safety and security than I am about how I feel? Like, if I was to die tomorrow, would I be pleased with how I have lived my life? Now, not about raising the kids, and it's nothing about that. It's just about, if you're in a job that you don't like and you're doing it because it's safe and secure and you got a beautiful house and pays for the car and all that kind of stuff, are you happy? The one thing I learned in gerontology working with the elderly is that question is, what piece of advice do you have? I was getting my hair done a couple of years ago, and this man is 106 years old. He's now passed.
Wow.
And he came in to get his hair cut. Poor guy. He had like 5 hairs, it was so cute. But it was his monthly outing or whatever it was. And, and I said, what advice do you have for a 50-year-old lady? Like, here's a man living, he's double my age. And he just had a smile on his face and said, you know what? Don't regret doing the things that you're doing. Have no regret. And you have to love the people in your life, and you have to love what you do. Otherwise, stop doing it because you'll die early. And a lot of people find that scary because when you ask yourself, what do you really want? And you hear a different answer than what you're currently doing or who you're currently with, you got to make a decision. And that's where people get scared, because you're going to have to make a change. And nobody wants to make a change because we live a life of basically everything's uncertain, right? But we want certainty. We want to control. And if we let go of the control and really go after what we want, then the money's going to come. The people are going to come. Everything will happen. And you have to trust. I never trusted. I was just too busy being in control of my life, trying to make shit happen. And sometimes it's like, let go and let life happen, for you, to you. Yeah. So.
Thank you. So how can people reach you? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, now that I'm on every social media channel, I don't know what channels they are, what they're named, but contact me at hello@odettepeek.com. And it's hello@odettepeek.com. And let's have a conversation. I got a lot of great stuff on my website that you can download for free. I've got this really great guide called How Big Is Your Butt? Learn the 7 ways you sabotage your own success. And a lot of people love that because it gets them really taking a look at what are the excuses and justifications that you're making that are stopping you from getting what you want. And then if you're serious about making a change, I'll have a conversation with you. but only if you're serious. Because if you're not serious, there's a lot of free stuff that you can get until you're serious. And that's fine. I have people who call me, literally I have 2 people last week call me from 2 years ago. They're like, we talked 2 years ago. I'm like, great. It took you this long, but you got here. That's okay.
Right. And it's a journey for everybody, right? So
Totally.
and you understand that. So it might not happen today and it might not happen, period. But, you know, for those that are actually interested and serious about making change, that there's, you know, there's someone amazing right here that you can talk to and work with. And I've worked with Odette as well, and she's just absolutely fabulous, really dives deep into what you're doing, who you are, what you want, and really getting to the nitty gritty of, you know, your business and what you want to happen with that business. And, you know, it always a great experience and great success afterwards. So
thank you.
Definitely.
Well, I forgot one thing. So this is me typical. For those of you that are business owners and want to speak or want to learn how to add speaking to your business, I do have a 5-day challenge that's coming on. Thank you for sending that email out to your list. But it's a 5-day challenge. Kind of a funny story. I was on a online networking thing, and you're supposed to give your elevator pitch, right? So I mentioned this challenge, but prior to that, the guy that went before me, he goes, I'm not gonna tell you his name. I have this program, blah, blah, blah. I don't do the wimpy 5-day challenge, blah, blah, blah. So then I was next. I said, well, I do the wimpy 5-day challenge. It's called the 5-day speaker challenge. But I help you uncover what your soul story is, what the marketing message is, how to sell from the front of the room, and how to put your talk together. And there's going to be some live training as well on how to market yourself as a speaker. So all free and very, very powerful information. So it'll be great. So once again, I don't know if I have a URL for that. I'm sure I do, but hello@Odette Peak can help you.
There you go. One-stop shop.
Yeah.
And you guys can get all the info. So I love that. Or you can reach out to me and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, you've got the link. Use Randy's link.
It's all good.
It's really brutal.
So yeah, thank you so much, Odette, for sharing with us today. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And we've been great friends. And I think I owe a lot to you for that opportunity. Remember 100 years ago where it was like, Odette, we don't know you, go jump up in front of the room in my event and speak. And I'm like, okay. Deer in the headlights. Like, no one gives you that opportunity. And I'm like, I'm not losing that opportunity. But it totally changed. It did totally changed my business, actually. So I owe a lot to Randy. So thank you.
I love that, and happy I could be part of that in any way, shape, or form. That's awesome. So thank you. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us. Please reach out to Odette. All the info to get her will be on the page, so you can see that. I'll even put a link for her 5-day challenge if you're interested in being part of that, because it'll really change your business. So thank you, Odette.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this interview hosted by Randy Goodman. We hope you will take action and connect with the incredible business people and leaders in our community. And remember, Randy is always here to answer any questions you have regarding your real estate needs. Be sure to register on the website and stay up to date on what's happening in your area at parkbench.com/millpond.